Be Jensen here. Tonight we are going to grill up some porterhouse steaks, make some sauteed potatoes, mushrooms, grill up some corn on the cob and asparagus with prosciutto, and make some cheesy bread in our pizza oven. So let's start by getting our potatoes, all of our vegetables ready to go on our our cooktop to cook up. So I've got potatoes, mushrooms, and then we're going to dice up an onion. And that way we can get those cooking on there because that's going to probably take about the longest. Then we're going to season up our steaks and get those going as well. So let's give this a nice, get all this kind of outer skin off of our onion. And I'm going to just do long and kind of skinny cuts on my onion for it today because I just love a good sauteed onions with steak. So we're going to give these just, again, a really simple, long, skinny cut. And that way they'll have plenty of time to kind of caramelize up on our cooktop. Here we go. Slipping and sliding. So we've got our onions. Now let's get our potatoes. For these, I'm probably going to just cut them up into small little bits so that they'll cook up pretty fast. You don't want to leave them too big or they'll take forever to cook up on our cooktop. Potatoes can really take a good amount of time. And we're just going to do, we'll season them towards the end, but keep them really simple. And then I prepped up some sourdough kind of pizza crust base for our cheesy bread. I actually used a new flour today. I used this like special 00 or 00 flour from Italy. So I'm excited to try it with it because I saw a good sale on it. And I was like, okay, let's see if this does better than like the bread flour or whatnot for making, cheesy breads and pizzas. So I'll be excited to see how that works. And we're also going to do I'm going to grill my zucchini and eggplant. And we're going to make this lovely herby marinade for it. That way we can, it will just have this great kind of herby flavor to it. But when you grill it up, it just gives it a great texture. It's one of my favorite ways to work with eggplant. Okay. Let's get these guys just about done chopping these up. We have lots of vegetable sides today to go with it. I was at the store and they had Porterhouse steaks on sale today. So I was like, you know what? Today feels like a steak day, It's officially fall. And the weather, although I would like to say it's getting cooler and cooler. Right now it's not so bad, but it was pretty sweltering hot today at my daughter's soccer game. I was roasting. It started out nice because the sun was behind some clouds, but when it came out, it was blazing. Okay, I'm going to get these last two potatoes chopped up, and then we're going to put our onions and our potatoes on our cooktop. We'll melt some butter, and we'll just kind of saute them up in the butter. Oh, must have forgotten to cut that one. Last one. And then we'll add our mushrooms on a little bit. Let's get these going over there. I'm going to grab some butter. And we're going to bring this over. I have my cooktop preheated, so it should be nice and warm. That way I don't have to wait for it to warm up. And we're going to add in our butter right now. And I'm just going to kind of cut it over. I have it over on a medium, kind of a lower medium, so it's not super high to start with. And now, there we go. We've got it all up. I'm going to add my potatoes over here. And these are my baby Yukon Gold potatoes, which I find are really great for cooking up on the cooktop. And then we've got one yellow onion that we're going to have up here. Grab my tongs. And we're going to give them a little coat in our butter so that it can start to get all that good flavor on. And then we'll spread them out and let them saute up. But again, I'm cooking these over a medium, kind of low, medium heat. So they'll have plenty of time to slowly cook. Here we go. And then the same with my potatoes. I'm just going to coat them all up in that butter. I'm not going to season them up right now. I'll wait till the very end to season them because I find if you season them up in the beginning, those spices will burn onto your cooktop. So just coat them up in that butter. Just add a smidge more right here. There we go. And now we're going to let these start to saute. Bring those down. Perfect. And got that nice and going. And let's kind of prep up our herby marinade for our veggies, and we'll get our steak seasoned as well. So let's get our steaks so they can kind of start marinating. So again, I found these really great big Porterhouse steaks at the grocery store, and they were on sale, so that's a win. We're going to start by drizzling them over with some Worcestershire sauce. This is going to help break down the fat and then make them extra juicy when we grill them up. Here we go. And I like to keep my steaks very simple. Let the meat kind of show off. So I just do Worcestershire and garlic salt. Sometimes I add black pepper. But again, simplicity. The meat is where it's supposed to shine. So we've got our Worcestershire and garlic salt on this side. And now I'm going to flip each one of these steaks over, and we're going to do the exact same on the other side. And then we'll let it kind of marinate for just a few minutes, and then we'll pop them on. These steaks are pretty good thick cut. So it's going to take about 15 minutes to cook them up, about 7 minutes on each side or so, because they are pretty thick for that kind of perfect medium rare, as long as you're not cooking it over too high. So let's go with our Worcestershire. Again, nice drizzle over it. And really, this isn't going to add so much of a flavor as it is going to really cut through that fat to really make it a really juicy and flavorful steak. There we go. And then we're going to set these over here, and I'm going to cover them up with my little baskets that I have until we're ready to pop them on the grill. But I do want them to get a little bit of a soak into that kind of marinade right there. Okay, while those are sitting there kind of seeping in those delicious flavors, let's create our herby marinade using some of our fresh herbs here. So I've got some fresh basil, which is going to add just a great kind of flavor to our eggplant and our zucchini. And here we go. I'm just taking a bunch of leaves. I've probably got about, when it's minced up and all said and done for, it's probably going to be close to a fourth of a cup of minced up fresh basil. I've got some fresh oregano here. And we don't need quite all of it. But you want to take these leaves off of your oregano so that you don't have kind of a tough stalk left over. Because we're going to mince all of this. And I'm aiming for about a fourth of a cup of our minced oregano as well, because this is going to be a pretty good herby blend here. And we're going to mix it with lemon juice, fresh lemon juice, garlic, olive oil, and garlic salt. And this is what we're going to coat our veggies in to grill up on our grill. Here we go. So I've got these, pretty much all those kind of big stalks on there. And then, of course, I have some fresh thyme. So just these kind of flavors together are just really lovely. Okay, and again, I'm going to try my best to kind of pull off as much of the leaves as possible and minimize the amount of stalks that are going in there. Thyme is luckily a little bit more of a delicate, so it will mince up nicely. But unfortunately, there's really no great way to de-herb these than just using your fingers to kind of just pull along and kind of thread those little leaves off.
So you have a question. Is this for a veggie dish?
This is it's going to be a vegetable side that we have with our steak. So this is going to be, we're making like an herby marinade for our zucchini and our eggplant, and then we'll grill them up on the grill. And it's one of my favorite ways to kind of do grilled eggplant, because it's just so good. Okay, let's get these guys all minced up. The more cuts you make into these herbs, the more that flavor is going to come off. And we really want it to really have a lot of herby flavor, because zucchini and eggplant both are like sponges in the sense that they have just a very mild, delicate flavor, but they really soak up all the delicious flavor of whatever you season them with. So this is going to give it just a great, fresh, delicious flavor to it. Here we go. And again, I've got, as you can see, there's just a good amount of fresh herbs that we're mincing up here, which will be just really fresh and wonderful. Got to use them while they're still, abundant. Okay, so here is our herby base. I'm going to add this into my bowl. So we've got a good amount of our fresh herbs. And then I've got some garlic here. I'm going to squeeze in about a tablespoon and a half, good amount. And then I have some olive oil. And we're going to probably use like 1/4 of a cup, maybe a little bit more. We need a good amount of olive oil just to make sure all of our vegetables get cut up. So actually, I think I used probably closer to a 1/3 cup. And then we're going to have a good sprinkle of garlic salt, like 1.5 teaspoons to 2 teaspoons. There we go. And let me grab my tongs real quick. I'm going to give this a good mix. And then we're going to add one more in our, I want to add my green onions in here to give it a nice onion flavor. But as you see, we just have this lovely kind of marinade, and then we'll add our fresh lemon juice in as well. So it kind of makes like a vinaigrette here. So let's grab some green onions. And we're going to do a good amount because I love green onions. The other day, they had green onions at Costco, which I normally never see, and I was really excited, and it was a big pack of them. And so I've been using so many green onions recently because of that, and I just think they add such a lovely fresh onion flavor. So I've got just a kind of a coarse dice on these right now, but I'm going to go back over and I'm going to mince them up. That way they'll really let out more of their onion flavor, and they're more likely to stick onto my veggies. Okay. So let's add these guys in. And that's I want to say like a 1/3 cup of green onions here. So we've got a good amount. We'll mix it in. And now I'm going to add juice from 1 whole lemon. This is going to give a nice fresh flavor to it as well. Here we go. Give this a little stir. And now let's prep our eggplant and our zucchini to go in there. With the eggplant, I'm just going to cut little kind of discs for this. You don't want to make them too thick because eggplant's a little bit more meaty, so it won't go super mushy. With zucchini, we'll cut them thicker because they need a little bit more base because they're more delicate. But for these, we're going to cut them just kind of a good size. And 1 eggplant is going to give you a lot of veggie. Here we go. And there we go. So this is going to be our eggplant, kind of that we're going to dip in our herby thing that we'll grill up. And then I'm just going to use 2 zucchinis, and then we'll kind of coat everything. We'll put our steak on, our corn on, and get kind of the next step in our meal prep. With my zucchini, I'm not going to cut little circles. I'm actually going to cut long kind of little strips here for this, because zucchini needs a little bit more of a base for it. Here we go. So And then got this guy going as well. And then we will, of course, marinate them all the way up. Here. So nice thick kind of cuts on it because they're going to need it. Okay, I'm going to toss all of these veggies in here, and then we're going to coat them up with our tongs on here. And so this is where you're just going to really stir and coat them up to bring it together. I might throw in a little bit more olive oil if I need a little bit more liquid for it, but this is where all this flavor is going to really go. Here we go. So again, getting in there, making sure I coat them up with this herby base at the bottom. And sometimes also, if you're just doing this inside, you have access to a good sink, just get in there with your hands. There. Here we go. And we'll start with this, and then what I'll do is there'll be a little bit of herb paste, and I'm going to add a little bit more olive oil to that, and we'll brush that on during our grill process as well. This should be pretty coated right now. Looking good. Okay, let's go let's put our steaks on, and then we're going to go check on our veggies that we have sauteing. I'm going to grab my first one. And I have this kind of heating up. They're over medium on all of my burners here. And these are kind of hefty steaks. Let me get in here. And these are my like T-bone steaks. If you see the little T-bone in it. Let's get this one. Beautiful. Get my second one. And again, don't have your grill up too hot, or you'll get a quick sear, but it won't cook all the way through. And I like to have my steak at a nice medium rare. Okay. Let's put that down. We'll add our veggies on in just a second, but I do want to give this a quick toss. I'm going to grab my tongs over here. Give our onions that we have sauteing over here, just kind of toss it up. You can see we're getting some nice good saute marks on them. This is nice and wonderful. I'm cooking again this over like a medium low, so it's not super high. Here, beautiful. Look at our potatoes getting that nice kind of crispy edge on them. Again, with your potatoes, you don't want to cut them too big or they'll take forever to cook up. Okay. These are looking lovely. Beautiful. Okay. So let's we'll pop our veggies on in a few minutes because these are only going to take so long to cook, and we'll put our corn on when we do that. Let's prep up our mushrooms that we can start sauteing, and then, you know what, let's first get our one of our cheese breads in the oven cooking for this. So again, I made this lovely sourdough kind of crust for our base of it. And I used a new flour, so I'll be interested to see how it holds up. It's a 00 flour, so it's a very finely ground one. Okay, I'm going to put my little base on here so that it slides off, because that's really important for getting it. Otherwise, what will happen is it will stick, and instead of having a pizza, you'll turn it into a calzone.
You got a question? What kind of steak was that?
Those were T-bone steaks. So like just delicious Porterhouse on there. You know, they've got they always like the T-bone's nickname because they have that little T-bone in it. But they're delicious. They were on sale, so I love them. They're kind of a great cut because you get two types of steak in one. Okay, let's get this nice and stretched out. For this, I am not I can't do that whole. I always wish I could. Maybe one day. Okay. So I'm stretching out my dough for it because you don't want to have it super thick. I don't mind leaving the crust thick, the ends, but thinner there. I don't make mine super big because I'm not the greatest at doing the like slide off. So smaller allows me to be more successful. I know my limitations. Okay, we're gonna put a little bit of butter on here for this. Kind of spread it around. This is gonna be for our kind of our garlic cheese bread. Here we go. A little bit of garlic salt. And we're going to make 2 types of cheese bread. I'm going to do a mozzarella and garlic, and then I also am going to do a cheddar cheese and a green onion cheese bread.
Someone said the asparagus looks like they've been in the gym.
They were pretty beefy asparagus. I typically like the really little ones, the skinny ones, because I feel like you get more flavor and more of the good parts to them. But these were on sale today. I always like to buy what's on sale. Okay, we've got our cheese bread here. We'll give it a little sprinkle. You got to do 2 layers of garlic salt, top and bottom. We're going to get this slid in, start cooking. And we'll get this going. Forewarn you guys. I have a tendency to always burn my very first one of the night every time, but I'm going to be diligent this time and keep a really good eye on it. So we're going to slide it off. Let me pull it up a little bit more. I think I didn't have enough flour on it. There we go. There we go. Okay, we're going to let it cook. I'm going to leave my lid off because it's always, when I take it off, it's always super hot. And then my consecutive ones, I will pop those on. But let's get our corn on the cob on and our veggies over here. We can sneak a peek at our steak and see how it's cooking up. Look at that, beautiful. So for my corn, I'm actually going to have them up here because we're going to need all the space we can with tonight's dinner. So we'll get these guys up here. And grilled corn is delicious. If you haven't tried it, it's just a great way to do it. Just always make sure you give your corn a good wash after you peel it because having a little bit of moisture on it works well. And now we're going to grill, put our zucchini and our eggplant on our grill here. And this is definitely a meatier vegetable in that it has a good base for it. But it's going to take up a lot of grill space. That's why I said we have to kind of divide and conquer with our corn. So I'm getting these guys in the back because they'll take more heat than our, looks like I poked through on that one. I feel like I have a little echo in here. Okay, let's get our zucchini on. And I'm cooking these just over a medium heat. I don't want them too high because, again, I don't want them to scorch before they're ready. There we go. And then we'll take a peek at our pizza and see how it's, our cheese bread, and see how it's going once we get these guys all on. Looks like I'm going to have the perfect amount of space on here. I like this. This is a quite a large grill. So it can hold a lot, which is nice. Got one last one. Don't discard these good herbs. We're going to actually add some more oil to this, and we will brush this over ours. We're not going to flip our steaks yet. They still need about 2 or so minutes. So let's get our cheese bread looking at it. Looks like we are doing pretty well. I always like to rotate it a little bit because the flame in our pizza oven is on one side. And so as you can see, one side always crusts up a little bit more. Beautiful. And so as you can see, one side always crusts up a little bit more. Beautiful. Got it over there. It's cooking good. Okay.
You have a question? What's the marinade of the veggies?
The veggies is just a really fresh, wonderful marinade made with fresh basil, fresh thyme, fresh oregano, green onions, lemon juice, garlic, and garlic salt. So, and olive oil. So just really fresh herbs and lemon juice. And it just adds such a great flavor to our, like, the veggies. And it's just really lovely. It's one of my favorite ways. And it's also great to do on chicken or seafood. So it is a great marinade that you can do on multiple things, not just veggies. Here we go. Let's get these so we can have them sauteing. And then we've got to prep our asparagus and prosciutto.
You have a question? Are you self-taught?
I am self-taught. So I actually started cooking for my family when I was 13 years old. And I started taking over like one meal a week, and then I slowly took over more and more. And I just really love and enjoy cooking. So it's just a passion of mine that I've been doing over the years. And, you know, I'm a much better cook than I was back then. You know, practice makes perfect. And even then, I'm not even halfway near perfect on anything. Okay, that is almost ready there. So let's go pop these mushrooms on to start sauteing, and then we can get our first cheese bread off because I told you it cooks pretty fast. Okay. Before we pop these mushrooms on, I'm going to throw just a little bit of butter for them. Here we go. And we'll slide these guys on there because mushrooms and onions with steak is just heaven. I'm going to grab my tongs. We'll give them a quick toss, and then we're going to grab our cheese bread out of the oven. We've got our first one down on there. And it looks like I'm going to be successful tonight. I will say this will be 2 nights in a row, or 2 big cookouts here. Look at our beautiful, gorgeous cheese bread for it. So we've got our nice, lovely golden brown crust, the bubbling cheese, and the garlic butter. So we're going to add, I'm just going to slide this over, and we'll put this on one of our things. And before we go, and I'm going to flip our steaks over here because it's been about 2 or so more minutes since we checked on them last. And we're going to just flip each one of these over. I'm going to start from the side I put them in on. There we go. They're looking delicious. Now with steaks, we're going to take them off when they're done, but we want to let them sit for a few minutes because you want them to be nice and juicy, and they have to sit. Here we go. They're so heavy that I'm having a hard, there we go, flipping them. They're really big steaks, I will say. These are each about 1.5 pounds on there. Beautiful. So here are our lovely steaks. And now I'm just going to go up here and I'm going to rotate all of my corn just a little bit. Beautiful. And I'm going to keep my vegetables on here, but there's our Porterhouse steaks cooking up right now. Wonderful. We've got our veggies with the fresh herbs on there, and then our corn up top. So we're going to keep those going. And I think we can give a quick toss here. And then we're going to get our asparagus prepped up and make our next cheesy bread, which we'll do our kind of a cheddar cheese and green onion cheesy bread with that one. Let's get our mushrooms here. I'm going to add a little bit more butter into the mushrooms. I like to add it in stages and not all at one time because mushrooms are kind of like little sponges as well. Here we go. Kind of toss these. Beautiful. And we'll season our potatoes up again at the very end, but not until then. Okay, I'm going to pop this on to get it nice and hot and ready for our next cheese bread to go in. And then we'll get our asparagus ready.
You have a question? How many are you cooking for tonight?
So tonight we are cooking for 7 plus 3, 10. 10. There we go. As I say, we have an extra one tonight. So we've got a good amount. Here we go. Got mine. And I will say this new flour, it has a, can't even remember what it was called, but it has a nice, I can feel it. It feels softer. It looks like it cooked up wonderful on there. It's supposed to be good for like the Neapolitan pizzas for that, but there we go. We're going to stretch it out. And this, for when I made this, so I used 2 cups of my sourdough starter, and then 1.5 cups of warm water, 5 cups of flour, a tablespoon of salt, about 2 teaspoons of honey, and like a tablespoon and a half of olive oil. So that's just it. And I made this earlier today and you just let it sit.
You have some confused people today because it's not usual time. So are you cooking again or is this dinner?
This is dinner because we were hoping to do a late lunch, but my daughter's soccer game, we didn't have refs show up. So we had to wait until refs got there, which then added a much longer delay on things. So this is going to be our things. We might do a late night tonight. I have a couple things that I'm prepping up, but I might just also do those off camera. So we'll see. We'll see how we goes there for it. Yes, this is the only meal that we're going to be cooking on our thing tonight. You know, life happens. Okay, this one we're going to do a little bit different because I saw this great cheese, and it's called mac and cheese, but it's two types of cheddar, Alpine cheddar and regular one. And I'm like, ooh, this sounds like it's going to be delicious. So we'll put a little bit of garlic salt on here. And then we're going to use some green onions because cheddar cheese and green onions just sound delicious. So I'm going to cut some green onions on here. You know, I've got to change it up. Here we go. And then we're going to give a nice little base of our double cheddar. Here we go. And then, of course, we're going to go back in with some garlic salt and just a few more green onions because they're just delicious. Okay, let's pop this in. And then we're going to probably flip our veggies and get those checked out. So I'm going to take off my cover now because it's nice and hot. That helps trap in the extra heat and keep it really hot. I'm going to bring it and see. Look at that. Skill, guys. That's called skill. I actually, when I first started this, like my parents put this in about a year or so ago. My pizzas that I had to make were super tiny because I could not get them to slide off. And I meant they were like little individual bite-sized pizzas, like a sliced pizza. We're going to go check on our veggies here, and we'll give these a quick flip. See how they're cooking up. Looks like I had two stuck on one right there. Let me grab my spatula. Here we go. Beautiful. So you want this nice little sear on them. When you take these out, they are going to get even more moist. But look, that's the perfect one that you want. That's why you've got to cut them like a pretty good thickness, but not super thick. Beautiful. Perfect. So we've got this lovely sear on our zucchini and our eggplant. Perfect. Of course, I'm going to flip that one over like 3 times. Beautiful. So these are like the sears that I want. This one technically needs a few minutes more, but since we're flipping them all over, you want a nice rich sear that's going to give you that flavor to it. Let's get these two guys in the middle. Beautiful. Okay, wonderful. Let's get that guy flipped over. Perfect. I'm going to turn this guy a little bit lower because I know my side right there is cooking just a smidge hotter. And then we're going to give these one more rotation. And before I close this guy off, we're going to put a stick of butter in here to melt up so that we can brush this over our corn. Because you've got to have butter on there. But you don't want to put the butter on the corn right away because then it will drip down and it will cause like a little fire in your grill. I'm going to give a little touch. All right, these are pretty close to being done, which is great. Let's take a quick peek over here. Let's do our little rotation. Beautiful. So I'm just going to rotate it. And then we're going to add it back in here. This is our cheddar and green onions. Okay.
You have a question? Do you have the recipe posted for the dough for the cheese brush?
I don't think I have that recipe posted, so I might make that a recipe card this week so that we have, you know, I can give that out to my members on there. And I did say it on screen, so you can always rewatch the video on there. But again, it was just about 5 cups of flour, 2 cups of discard, 1.5 cups of warm water, about a tablespoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and I'm missing and about a tablespoon of honey. 2 teaspoons to a tablespoon of honey. That's going to help give it a nice golden crust. Okay, we're going to cut off the last little bit on here, but I'm going to keep my eyes on my pizza over there. And then we'll get ready because we're going to take our steaks off here in just a second so they can have their kind of like, I always say you need to let your steaks rest like 5 to 10 minutes before you try to like dive into them, because that allows those juices to really set in them. Because if you start eating them right away, what happens is as you cut into them, those juices are going to just seep out and leave you with a drier steak. Okay.
You have a question? What is discard?
Discard is when you're making sourdough, you use a starter, and your discard is what you throw away when you're ready to feed your starter to make more sourdough bread or deliciousness. I do have videos if you're interested in doing the sourdough journey on how to create your own sourdough like starter from beginning. We're gonna grab our steak off, but I see that this beautiful pizza is ready. So look at this gorgeous cheddar and green onion cheese bread. I'm going to slide that over here with our next one. And let's go get our steaks off. Here we go. And that way we'll have room for our asparagus to cook. Now, also knowing when you take your steaks off, they're going to sit and they're going to continue to cook for a few more minutes. That's what that resting plate like phase does, which allows you to have just a perfectly cooked steak that is juicy and tender. You don't want to cook it to where it's done right away. You want to cook it to where it's just under, and then that resting time is going to allow you to cook the rest. But look at these gorgeous Porterhouse steaks. They are going to be absolutely wonderful.
You have a question? Do you sell your starter?
I do not sell my starter, but I do have videos on how you can make it yourself. And it is not very difficult. Trust me, you can do it. It's just, you'll get it done in like no time. It takes about a week to have it. I'm going to wrap up my asparagus first, and then let me shut this, but then we'll pop these on to cook. Okay, so for this one, this is going to be prosciutto wrapped asparagus bundles, which will be delicious. I am a great lover of prosciutto and asparagus. So when you get to have them both, the saltiness of the prosciutto will give a wonderful flavor to our thing. Okay, so you're just going to take this and you're just going to take like your little bundle of a couple asparagus at a time, and we'll wrap it up just like this. It doesn't need to be, super tightly woven around it, but as you heat up as the asparagus grills up, and it cooks pretty fast, that asparagus will crisp up and add some great flavor to, or that prosciutto will crisp up and add some great flavor to the asparagus. So just gonna wrap these in a little bundles here, and they make perfect little serving sizes. My husband's probably like, perfect waste of prosciutto. He does not like asparagus, but I love asparagus. The way I got my kids to eat asparagus is I told them that they were broccoli spears because they like broccoli. And so then they tried it out. And then cauliflower was snowy broccoli. And at the time, that was when Frozen had come out, and my older ones were little, and I was like, and Elsa froze this broccoli just for you guys. And they believed it, and they ate it happily. It was kind of like when we were introducing them to different like seafoods, and everything was shrimp were like little baby salmon, and scallops were salmon balls, and so we just had to use all these different things just to get them to try them, because so much of kids not wanting to eat something is just them being difficult. Okay, let's get these last bundles up, and then they're going to go on, of course. There we go. Sometimes I can't get my finger on these things because they make them adult proof. It's just like when you have to unwrap like kids' clothes or kids' toys, and you're like, how am I gonna get this out of the package? Okay, I've got 2 more left to wrap, and then we're gonna go pop these on, and then we're gonna check at our, probably baste a little bit of our corn, and then we're gonna season up some of our potatoes, and maybe make 1 more cheese bread while we go, because we're almost done with everything. Here we go. Okay, let's take this all the way over, and let's get this guy set up. Take my garlic salt too. Okay. Beautiful. My butter is nice and melted. I'm going to take my prosciutto here, and then we're going to take off our zucchini and asparagus. Not zucchini, asparagus, zucchini and eggplant. Let's put all of our little bundles here. Just be careful as you're grabbing them. Here we go. I almost moved that with my hand, and that is going to be very, very hot. Here we go. Okay, let me go grab a platter so we can grab off our veggies, our first batch of them. Here we go. Beautiful. They are looking delicious. And then I'm just going to drizzle some of our fresh marinade over them as well. Perfect. Look at our gorgeous zucchini and our eggplant. I'm going to give our corn a little toss here. And then we'll coat that with some butter here in just a second. We'll put it over here for right now. And let's give our veggies here a quick toss. So I've got my mushrooms sauteing up here. I've got my crispy kind of caramelized onions. These will both go great as little sides with our steak. And then, of course, our potatoes. Here, we'll give them a quick little toss. And then I'm going to sprinkle some garlic salt over all of these, and then we're going to cut some fresh green onions on them. So just a little bit of garlic salt over everything. Garlic salt makes the world go round. Needs 1 more smidge. There we go. And now let me grab my green onions and my little scissors here, and we're just going to cut these on top. And I'm not going to mix them in yet. I'm going to let them kind of hydrate, that garlic salt hydrate with the steam that comes over for this. Here we go. And
Georgia says since watching you, she loves using tongs now when she cooks.
They are one of those biggest game changers if you haven't made the switch in your kitchen to using them. It's just so much easier. You can actually manipulate much better with them. Okay. We're going to baste a little bit of our corn here. I'm going to add a little bit of salt in here to my butter. And the reason I have my oven mitts on is this is hot, so don't try to grab it with your hands. And you see how I waited till the end to do my butter. We're going to do this a couple of times because if you put it on too soon, you can create kind of essentially a grease fire in there. But you want to definitely do a couple layers of this. Beautiful. And then we're going to use a little bit on here as well. There we go. There, and perfect. And once my asparagus has a nice, turn it down just a little, we will rotate them, but they'll get a nice vibrant green color, and that's when we're going to know that they're ready. Okay, I think we have time to toss in 1 last cheesy bread on here, and then everything else will be ready to come off for this. And this one I'm going to do, I guess it's not quite a cheesy bread. It's more of like a pizza Napoleon. Here we go. We'll stretch this out.
You have a question. How long has the corn been on the grill for?
The corn we put on, it's probably been on for like 10, 15 minutes now, maybe. I'm not good with time on there. It takes, since I have it up top, it's going to take longer than having it down below. And it also prevents you from getting too many grill marks on it. So it will make it nice and tender but it's a slower cook. Now, if I put it down on the bottom, it only needs about 10 minutes to cook. Okay. Let's get this guy on. Make sure I've got a good slide. Perfect. And then for this, since we're gonna do more of like a thing, I've got some tomatoes here. So we're gonna just slice up some thin tomatoes and add it on there with some fresh mozzarella, fresh basil. And then at the end, we'll drizzle a little bit of garlic salt. And then after we take it out, we'll have a little drizzle of balsamic glaze on it. So here we've got our tomatoes. Again, slide this down. And then I saw my fresh mozzarella right here. We're going to put this on. And then we'll start taking everything off while this cooks. So we've got our mozzarella and then our fresh basil. So just grab a couple leaves here. Beautiful. And then this is all that is. It's pretty simple. My garlic salt's over there, so we'll pop our garlic salt on. Then we're gonna toss all of our rest of our veggies up and start taking them off here. So just a little sprinkle of garlic salt adds a nice little flavor. Beautiful. We gotta do, I know it's kind of crazy, but it's a little jig here, back and forth for it. Okay, let me toss these up in our spices now and kind of coat them up now that they've had a chance to hydrate. And then let's go check on our corn and our asparagus. And if it's got the right coloring on it, then I'll know it's time to come off. Beautiful. We're getting pretty close there. I'm going to rotate you can see they're starting to get more and more vibrant green. I'm going to rotate these. Beautiful. And then we're going to do our second kind of coating of our butter. And then I will start taking off my next sets of veggies because we're getting down to our final countdown here. Okay. So we'll go through and give it, and then of course we'll always have extra to drizzle on right before serving, but this really adds it up. And then I'm going to do another kind of drizzle on each one of our asparagus. Now you can always try to flip it over and grill your asparagus on both sides, but that prosciutto will break easily, so I just like to keep it kind of one-sided. And that's why I always say you gotta be careful with the butter because it always drips down just a smidge. Okay, let's start taking off our potatoes here. I'm gonna grab my big veggie plate. And then our steak should have a nice seating time for this. Let me grab my tongs. Okay, we've got our mushrooms. These are gonna be great to have on just topped on top of our steak, also just to eat by themselves. Here we go. And we've got my onions. And then we'll get our potatoes off. Okay. Give them one last toss. And now we'll start moving them off on here. And that's the nice thing is we put our potatoes on because our potatoes take the longest time to cook because they're, the most substantial of our vegetables. But they are so delicious. Here we go. So let's again get all of these off. And we just kept our seasoning simple: garlic, salt, and green onions and butter. Sometimes simple is better. We're going to give our pizza a little rotation here. And then it should be done in just a few seconds. So we're going to give it a nice kind of rotation. Get the nice hot side over here. Let that cook up. And let's take off our corn and our asparagus. And let's do it on this one. And then we'll be ready to serve up. Okay. Look at this. This is looking delicious. So we'll get our corn on the cob right here. We've got this nice kind of golden yellow, which means we'll know that it's nice and cooked all the way through for this. Here we go. And I will say grilled corn on the cob is just so delicious. It's got a little mountain of corn here. Beautiful. And now let's get our asparagus. Try to grab them by our bundles here. But here we've got this nice kind of bright, vibrant green. There we go. And you've got that, they'll have, we kind of coated them with a little bit of our garlic butter on there, but they also are going to have that lovely prosciutto flavor. Don't fall apart on me. That's why I always say, there we go. Caught it before it went down. That's why I don't like to turn them in there, because turning them, you risk them falling apart. Beautiful. Okay. We are just about ready. And then I think our pizza, last one. That's okay. Good thing we had more than enough. I'm sure my husband will gladly volunteer that one from his bundle. Okay, so we've got our corn and our asparagus wrapped in prosciutto. And now let's grab our last little cheesy bread out, and we will be ready. Look at this beautiful pizza margherita with our fresh mozzarella, tomatoes, basil on there. Slide it on here. And now we can do our final reveal of our grill out tonight. So starting over here, we've got our corn on the cob that we grilled up with our asparagus wrapped in prosciutto, and we also basted them with a garlic butter. Our Porterhouse steaks that we should grill to a perfect kind of medium rare, seasoned with garlic, salt, and Worcestershire sauce. They've been resting, so they're nice and juicy. We have our garlic cheese bread, and then our cheddar and green onions cheese bread on our sourdough crust. We've got our herb marinated zucchini and eggplant with fresh basil, thyme, oregano, green onions, garlic, salt, and lemon juice. Our potatoes that we fried up with butter, garlic, salt, and green onions, sautéed mushrooms, onion, and of course, our pizza margherita as our last kind of little cheesy bread here. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, kind of show you what we're making for our family and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page, so if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, you can just go to that link, search for what we made, and you can watch and cook along with us again. We also have a link to our Amazon storefront that has all of our different cooking gear and gadgets in it. I've got my cutting boards, my knives, my pots and pans, everything used in the kitchen I have in there for you guys to check out. But again, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe.